You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hi there. You're listening to the Oklahoma On Stage podcast. You can find us on all your favorite platforms as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And our website is oklahomaonstage.org. We'd love to know what you think about our podcast, so send any comments or questions to oklahomaonstage@gmail.com. We hope you like this episode, and if you do, share it with someone. So now just grab a drink and a snack and settle in. The show starts now.
Oklahoma on stage, the stories come alive with drama, dance, and music. The arts always thrive. From center stage to backstage lore, Oklahoma on stage, there's always something more.
Welcome back, everybody, to Oklahoma On Stage, your go-to podcast for all things theater in the great state of Oklahoma. Today, we're sitting in Theatre Tulsa, and we're talking with the executive director of Theatre Tulsa. He stepped into this leadership role back in June of 2024, bringing with him a vibrant mix of experience from news anchor to real estate marketing director, and most importantly, a lifelong passion for the performing arts. He's directed, choreographed, performed in nearly 100 productions across multiple states, and even founded a youth performing arts program in Louisiana back in 2012. Now he's at the helm of Oklahoma's oldest and longest nonprofit theater. He's guiding Theatre Tulsa into a bold new chapter. Oklahoma On Stage family, please welcome Travis Guillory.
Yeah, you said it right.
I did.
And what an intro. That made me sound really important and fun.
That's what we do. We try to, help people out. So,
Yeah.
And, hey, theater, we all have egos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have it.
Exactly. You have to stroke it a little bit every day.
All right.
Not too much.
So we're diving in. We're going to start, do a little bit of talking about you, and we're going to talk a little bit about Theatre Tulsa. Obviously, is why we're here. Couple of the things in the bio that you sent me talking about, you touched a little bit on Theatre Tulsa's mission, you've done a lot of work to keep it connected to the mission. Can you share Theatre Tulsa's mission in your own words?
Yeah. So I think for Theatre Tulsa, we are the largest and longest running nonprofit theater company in Oklahoma. We are the 7th oldest on this side of the Mississippi. Like we've been around for a while, and I think the company has, obviously in the past 103 years taken many different forms, and a lot of different turns in terms of like the financial climate of, that decade and how a small, not really a small town theater, but a theater in the middle of America survives the Great Depression and a global pandemic and things like that. And I think the heart of everything that Theatre Tulsa has done has always been community, because we're in this weird spot, I think, and I think a lot of people would agree that Theatre Tulsa is a big, small company and a small, big company. We do shows that could rival, a regional production of something, but we've got a full-time staff of 3 people. It looks big. We look really big and nice and shiny, and I think that's what attracts a lot of people to it. So even through all the iterations of Theatre Tulsa and all the types of shows that we've done and how big or small we might look, the through line has always been community, because without folks in our shows, those shows don't exist. Without folks in the audience, in the seats, those shows don't exist. So we really we can't get a big head, even when we do a really, really impressive big production at the Performing Arts Center. All those folks are folks that are volunteering their time. They've all got families at home. They have to go and cook dinner after rehearsal. They're doing it because they love it and they're passionate about it. And one thing I always say whenever we're getting close to opening a show, whether it's a show that I'm directly working on or not, I always make sure I get the cast of that show together, and just thank them for doing the thing that they love to do, because it not only is important for the community to have that type of outlet, but as human beings, especially adults as we get older, to be able to take time for yourself and be like, you know what, mom's gonna go and be in a musical now. You know what I mean? That's so awesome. And so we really have never lost sight of that. So, while our mission is, we do some big splashy musicals and we strive for this, quality and this excellence, really at the heart of it, it's community. And it's the folks that are in these shows who are doing it because they love it and they want to be here and they want to not only support Theatre Tulsa, but also do something and give back to the community in a way that is impactful.
Very cool. Very cool. So you touched a little bit about on big at the Performing Arts Center, of course. You do productions both here and at the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
What would you kind of say is the difference between the two, other than size, of course?
Yeah. So we recently, about 2 years ago, renovated a former Family Dollar to kind of bring everything together. We were renting storage facility for costumes, renting storage facility for sets. We were using churches and just random places for rehearsals, like most community theaters are doing. Wherever you can find a back alley that somebody lets you rehearse a play, you're going to do it, we were renting out spaces for our office. We were kind of all over the place, and we'd have one show rehearsing across town, and then we have to go over it. It was so spread out. So 2 years ago, we got this Family Dollar and divided it up in a way that we're able to have 2 rehearsal rooms, one slightly bigger, our entire costume shop, our offices, a lobby area. And I don't know if the plan was ever to do productions here. But whenever I came on, we had done a few things here with low tech, low budget stuff, 3-person things that, weren't super big. And whenever I came on last summer, and I'm kind of sitting here all day, every day going, man, this place is pretty quiet. We could start beefing things up here. Because for probably the past decade, we've been known for our big shows at the Performing Arts Center. And we've got shows this year. We're about to open Hairspray. We're doing Rent there. We're making the regional premiere of Frozen there. We've got Gypsy there. So we still have that as the main stage hallmark productions that Theatre Tulsa is known for. But what if we're able to do some kind of scrappier things in our own space that is just kind of sitting here for rehearsals and whatnot? So through a lot of really intense scheduling meetings with our company manager of how do we make all this work? I wanted to pack as many off-Broadway series, which is our kind of black box series. We have our Broadway series and our off-Broadway series, to see what kind of shows we can get away with doing here in our little Family Dollar. So, I had a private donor who donated some money for nice cushy chairs, because he was if I'm going to start seeing shows here, I kind of want to be comfortable, and these chairs suck. And I was like, fair. He was like, here's a check to get better chairs. I'm like, great.
So who doesn't ever say that in a movie theater or any theater?
Yeah, totally. So it things just kind of fell into place. We painted the ceiling black in that large rehearsal room. We were able to fit 80 or so chairs in there. And we've been working over, the past 6-7 months to really build the tech out in that space to really be modular. We did a production of Cabaret in June that had 2 sold out weekends in there, because we could do some kind of cool things with the configuration of the space. We just closed a production of The Crucible in that space, which we were able to do completely in the round, because I had an idea like, hey, let's do a big classic play, and I want to see if we can pull it off in the round in the studio. And I again, by like rigging up the tech, like working with people, we were able to do that. And so each time we do something here at the studio, we learn something new about the capabilities, and we're always just trying to like maximize the space to its fullest potential, while still, of course, having those large shows at the PAC. So I think for us as a theater company, you know, a lot of people are seeing what we're doing, and the past 2 reviews that we've gotten from the like local online arts kind of a publication have said both times, like, everybody should take note of like the artistic swings that Theatre Tulsa is taking. And so, and for me, like that really means a lot, because not only are we trying to do something physical here by like, this is a new venue for Tulsa, and we have other companies that are looking at doing their performances here. And so like, it's a physical feat of look what we're able to do in a former Family Dollar. And also we can kind of be cool. Like, we don't have to, you know, you know what I mean? And it comes from a place of, I mean, it's no secret that doing shows at a performing arts center is expensive. Therefore, I know you can't really take huge risks there. You got to do shows that you know people are going to want to see. It has to be a popular title. If we're going to do it on the Williams stage at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center, which is a 420 seat theater, you know, I've got to have like, it's not really ideal for a, you know, 5-person play or musical. Like, I know we need to do Hairspray. I know we need to do Frozen. We got to do Gypsy. We got to do Oliver and Annie and The Sound of Music. And we have to do
it's going to put butts in seats.
Something that's going to put butts in seats. And that's going to want to, that is going to make people want to be in the show and make people want to see the show. Here at our Family Dollar Theater, we can say, you know, it's not the most popular title, but we can do it in a really cool way with way less overhead, because this is our own space, and see what we can get away with. And we're able to take those risks here. And that has also kind of, you know, went into this whole other arm of Theatre Tulsa of our collaboration series, which are folks in the community and artists that come and pitch a show to us. Like, it could be a show that they really have always wanted to produce, or a show I've always really wanted to see done, but nobody's done it yet. And we're able to kind of co-produce that show with them here, because again, it's our space, and I don't mind giving a week for Tech Week and a weekend for performances for somebody to co-produce their dream show that they don't have the resources for, but we do. And we can, you know, help folks do that here. And again, it could be a show that hardly anybody's heard of, but it's like, again, that's where the community aspect comes in. It's like, it's especially on those collaboration series shows, like, we're not looking to make a whole lot of money from those, but we're making really cool art, and we're doing it really well in a former Family Dollar. And it's not taking away from anything that we're doing. If anything, it's just adding to the number of productions that we're able to do. It's adding to our reach. I've seen so many people come through here to see our shows that we've done here at the studio that I've never seen at the PAC before. And so we're reaching a different audience. We're reaching just a whole different breed of Tulsa, you know, who wants to see this kind of scrappier, you know, kind of theater. And we're fortunate enough that we have the resources to do that at Theatre Tulsa, without taking away from our large scale musicals at the PAC. So like, the biggest difference, obviously, like you said, is the scale of those shows. But I think the impact is also different. We can do some really, really cool storytelling whenever the audience is in the round in our studio space.
Absolutely.
Where we can't do that whenever they're 50 feet away from us in the audience at the PAC. And so we've been over the last year, like understanding where our bread is buttered, but also like, what if we didn't put butter on the bread? What if we put some, I don't know, other fun stuff on it? You know what I mean?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, I don't know. Like put some Tabasco sauce. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's try it and see.
And I think too, the really cool thing about, like you said, doing things a little bit different in here and collaborating and stuff, you're also bringing more awareness to those artists and those other things that they wouldn't necessarily have the ability to do.
Right.
And so I think that's great that, again, showing that collaboration with the community, which is something that you actually did when you first came to Tulsa, the outreach portion of it, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Some of the core values that you guys in your mission talk about is quality, community, and love of theater. How do those values help to shape the programming that you guys put on?
Yeah. Well, I think all of those three things go hand in hand. We've always talked a lot about the community of it. And I think if it were up to me, which I guess it is because I'm executive director, but I'm not going to change the mission, but like I would put quality third on that list. Like if you're going to look at like ranking those three things, I think with companies like this that have such a rich history, that are rooted so deep in the community. I mean, it's a fair statement to say that Theatre Tulsa is an institution in Tulsa. It is a gem in Tulsa. And I think because of the community support that we've had over the last 103 years, cultivating that love of theater, both internally with the folks who were in our shows and on our production teams, kind of radiating that out for the community to then have that love of theater to come and see that. And we're able to do it in a way that is high quality. And so it's like, I think all three of those things, I mean, it perfectly sums it up of like community, quality, love of theater. I think you can't have one without the other. If you don't have a community behind you or a community of volunteers or actors, you don't have that love of theater. You need the people to come, you know what I mean? And then if the people come and it's not great quality, well, you're not going to keep them.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
You will sell more tickets.
Right. And so I think those three core values really, really go hand in hand. And I think at the heart of every theater company, that's what every single, I think arts organization strives for. You got to have people. You got to have people who care about the work that you're doing, especially if you are in the nonprofit world, as most theater companies, at this level are. You've just got to have that community, and you've got to have those folks behind you and support you and wanting to see the vision and the mission come to life. I came in with some crazy ideas, and I had a fantastic staff of people that were just like, yeah, that would be cool if we could, let's go. And then other people saw that. And then it has been such a great year of, you build it and then they come. You take a lot of risks when you're just blindly building it, because you're hoping, I hope I can get that community. I hope I can instill and ignite that love of theater. I hope we're able to do this in some kind of quality, that people don't think we're just, slapping cardboard sets together. And, sometimes you are,
Absolutely.
Sometimes your resources are stretched thin. And, so you have a lot of these smaller companies who are absolutely doing their best with the resources that they're given. But I think that's kind of at the heart of every theater company, is like that sense of community, that love of theater, and then trying to strive for the best quality. But every theater company is different, and they're in very different regions of the country and very different socioeconomic, demographics, and all have their own kind of lane and their own mission. But I think those three things, I mean, that is community theater right there.
Fair. So let's shift gears just a little bit. We're going to talk about you. And of course, we always, in any one of these interviews, it's always the elephant in the room. How did you get started in theater?
Yeah. Well, I have been doing theater since I was 9. I, in a small theater in my small hometown in South Louisiana, with the cardboard set, like, you know what I mean? Like I grew up in that scrappy theater environment where like the mayor is there, like helping to paint flag. You know what I mean? Like it's so Music Man.
Well, that's cool that you got the mayor to get involved.
That's how small the town was. But like I started around 9, and it was like a youth program kind of thing. I played the Big Bad Wolf and the Three Little Pigs. I was like a foot shorter than the Three Little Pigs. I think that's why I got the role. They were like, who's this little kid that's just like howling at these like older kid? Like, okay, yeah. And then I think so I was probably 9. Yeah, I was 9. And then a little bit later, I got cast as the Artful Dodger in Oliver in that same small town. And that was the first musical they had ever done, which was big. It was big for New Iberia, Louisiana. Like we had 2 piano players. Yeah. Oh, I mean, full orchestra. You know what I'm saying? And like, I didn't realize I could sing. Like just so many little light bulbs are going off. And I think even for that small theater, like, oh, we're able to do. And like now their season is like, I think 6 or 7 musicals with a full orchestra. And I'm like 20 whatever years ago. And I was just this little scrappy kid in that kind of rinky-dink production of Oliver. And it's like to see that theater, and like now where it is, has been like so cool for me to see, like from the outside now that I live here. But yeah, I kept doing theater all throughout school, and then directed my first show there when I was a senior in high school. It was an Agatha Christie, The Unexpected Guest. And that was the first play I ever directed. I had choreographed things. I was like that kid, like that really irritating, annoying, arrogant kid that like I was choreographing productions for other schools while I was in high school.
Oh my.
Like I would get enlisted, whether I like beat the door down myself. Like I don't know how I did it, but like looking back, I was like, that little 15-year-old was literally choreographing a production of Seussical at a school he did not even go to. And I'm like, how did I even get there? And I also was that kid, because I went to like a kind of small private school, which means no theater department or like no arts or whatever. And I like produced You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown with a live band in the cafeteria lobby. I don't know how I convinced the school to pay for the rights to like block out. We sold tickets. I'm like, and I'm looking back and I'm going, oh wait, that's literally just what I'm doing now. Like I'm doing the Family Dollar theater. I'm trying to program all of this, and it's like, wait, I've been doing this my whole life basically. But I never like did it professionally. I never pursued anything professionally, just because I thought, man, I don't want to be that person that's in New York, living in a box, overpaying rent, auditioning constantly, hustling. I finally get my big break and the funding falls through and I'm back to square one. Like I just saw all of that when I was a kid. I was like, there's no way. I'm like, I need a steady paycheck. So I went to school for public relations, and all the while still doing theater. And so like while I was in college, I founded a youth performing arts company in Louisiana that ran for about 10 years. I tried to keep it up while I was here. And so I built that up. I don't know how many like kids total I ended up working with. And then moved to Tulsa, and, I had been directing and choreographing a lot in Louisiana. And when I moved here, I was, house hunting because I had gotten a news anchor job here, and I again, kind of accidentally fell into news and journalism. And I'm like, I guess that's kind of PR, but I'm on TV. Like things just went crazy. But I still was always doing theater on the side. And so I was about to move to Tulsa, and I had a 48-hour window to come here, find a house, because like I had signed my contract with the new station. Like I never really been to Tulsa. And I saw that Theatre Tulsa was doing ragtime at the Performing Arts Center. This was 2017. And I was like, oh, how nice. The community theater's doing a production of ragtime. And I had been to other cities because I was interviewing all over the country. And so I saw a terrible production of, I'll just say it, I saw a really bad production of Cats in Pensacola, Florida. And I know that hearing that, you're like, of course you saw a bad production of Cats at a community. But I'm like, I had high hopes for it. And so usually what I would do is I would go, let me see what the theater scene is like. And so I was like, oh, how nice. The community theater in Tulsa is doing a production of ragtime at the PAC. How nice. I was bawling my eyes out at the end. I was like, this is what community theater is in Tulsa. I mean, because full circle here, you could see the community, you could see the quality, you could see the love of theater. I mean, it was just mind blowing. And like, it sounds like I'm making it up, but it's really not. Like, me seeing a Theatre Tulsa production was one of the reasons I moved to Tulsa and moved to Oklahoma. Because it was something I'd never seen before for a, quote, community theater. And so then I got here to Tulsa and started auditioning for things just to kind of get my feet. But nobody knew who I was here. But they kind of knew who I was because I was on TV, and it was like, oh, that's the guy who's now on, the news. And so like just immediately jumped in and started auditioning for things. And then pretty soon after that started directing and choreographing for Theatre Tulsa, specifically with the youth program with Theatre Tulsa Academy, which about 300 or so kids come through that program every year because we have year-round programming. So I started directing and choreographing a lot of the kids shows for Theatre Tulsa, moved up into some adult shows, Theatre Tulsa, had a personal career change, went into real estate marketing, all still kind of doing this on the side. And then, oh, they need a new education and outreach coordinator. Like, oh, Travis makes sense because he's doing it. But, and then almost 2 years ago, the former executive director here was like, hey, you guys, bless you. I was waiting for it.
I know, you too.
The former executive director was going to be resigning after, I think almost a decade. And I thought, why not? I've faked my way through so many careers. I could fake my way through this one, Drew. I'm just an actor. Like I can do this. And so through like a very long, I think like 6-month long process with the board, I became full-time here as executive director. And so that's kind of been how my career has gotten me where I am. But like I said, like seeing the things that we're doing at Theatre Tulsa now and kind of like reflecting back on all that, it's like everything was kind of leading me here. And it's like, you have people that believe like you're in the right place at the right time and it's like, I kind of feel like that. I kind of feel like this was a moment for Theatre Tulsa because it also was no secret that it was in a pretty bad financial situation whenever I took it over. And so it's like the stars kind of had to align at the right time. And, we were able to start doing more shows in our studio. We were able to like find some lightning in a bottle. We've had a few of those situations over the last year where like things just worked out so well. Because I think we have like the right people here at the right time. And so I look back at like my career and I'm like, oh yeah, like that kid, like the big bad wolf who was like a foot shorter than the pigs would look ahead now 25 years and go, yeah, duh, of course that's what you're doing. Like you're you're like running the oldest and largest nonprofit theater company in Oklahoma, and you're like doing Family Dollar theater and big shows at the Performing Arts Center. So it's like, I'm really grateful that I've had the roller coaster of a like career path that I've had. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm happy to be here where I am now, able to do the things that Theatre Tulsa is doing with the people that we have.
That's a really cool story.
Thank you.
And it really kind of did. It kind of wrapped up like all of the questions I had for your journey, all in one. Okay, and he's talking about that, and he's talking about that. Okay, so moving on to Theatre Tulsa's history, its evolution and things. Founded in 1922.
Yeah.
Tell us what you know about the history here in this longest running theater.
Yeah. So again, like we've said, I mean, it's had its ups and downs. I mean, it literally went through the Great Depression and came out on the other end of it still doing shows, which is, a feat in and of itself. And I think all theaters that survived the pandemic and are somewhat stable now are like, that's a miracle, because an entire industry, shut down for almost 2 years. But I think for Theatre Tulsa, starting in 1922, it was the most grassroots type of theater company at that time, of like literally on the grass, because the theater was a tent. It was like a smaller looking circus tent kind of thing. And I think, I don't know every single year, what the business model was at that time, but I do know that like Theatre Tulsa has had every type of iteration of a business model for a community theater. I don't believe they started doing a lot of musicals really until, for sure within the last 10, 15, 20 years. I don't think, I could be wrong, and there's probably some historian who's listening to this and they're like, he's kidding, and so it's morphed over time. And I think that also you have to look at the times, look at what's happening, and adjust and adapt, especially in the nonprofit world, to again keep that community and keep those people around. So yeah, we've been around for 103 years, and I mean, if like the founders could see what we're doing now, I would hope they're impressed. They're like, what happened to our tent? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know, but like, look what we're doing. So, I would hope that, the folks who founded this company 103 years ago would be proud of where it is today. And I'm sure, as with many companies that have a very long, deep, rich history, you've had people along the way that I'm sure, well, I would have done this and I would have done that. And everybody has their opinion on how things should be run. But yeah, I mean, Theatre Tulsa has survived. It has thrived. It has, just, and through all of that, continued to be such a gift to the community, which is why whenever we were really struggling financially the past year, I was like, do I sound the alarm? But like, I don't really know how to, I've never been in this position before. And then like, I just thought, transparency is the thing to do, I think. And so, yeah, hey guys, you have a Tulsa institution really struggling right now. So if you as a community care about this and want it to sustain and see a 103rd, 104th, 105th year, we need your help. And so, and there is that level of like, let me tell you, it's been a humbling year. Trust me, this is not a glamorous job. It's a fun job. It is not an easy job. And so I think back and of whoever was running this place in the 40s or in the 50s or in the, it's like, I can imagine the stuff they were having to deal with and having the same days of just like spinning in your chair in your office going, how am I going to save this thing? And so I think through all of like the ups and downs, the triumphs, the, like rock bottoms, it's like, I don't know. It's just so impressive to have an organization like this in this city. And then for me, just like to like help shepherd it into, I don't know, the next 100 years or whatever next phase it's going to be. But for right now, you know, this is what makes sense for Theatre Tulsa. This is what makes sense for the community. It's what makes sense for the city. And I know everybody in the past 100 years that's had this job, who's also pulled their hair out, has, you know, all worked toward the same thing.
True, and I think like as you said several times, you know, every community or theater out there deals with similar situation, maybe different scales, whatever. True, one of the great benefits of being here is the community in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of money up here, and if you know how to tap into it,
right,
you know, it's a great benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, bringing a lot of that in, the Tulsa Performing Arts Center has a lot to help you with that.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
So let's talk about some productions.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, you guys dove into some immersive theater
Mm-hmm.
and did a rendition, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
of Cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
What brought that on, and where did that come from?
So Cabaret was the first and the easiest show that we picked. Whenever we started to see a little bit more potential in our studio space, I thought, man, if we get that room fit with pretty good tech, we can fit about 80 people in there. We can do it in any configuration. What would be a show that makes sense for Theatre Tulsa that we could really do some cool stuff with this building? And the first show I thought about was Cabaret. And I told my company manager, I said, what if we launched our new and improved off-Broadway series, our new robust studio Family Dollar series? I'm thinking Cabaret. And she was like, I was thinking Cabaret too. We're doing Cabaret. Like it was just, yeah. And so we wanted it to be, because it was like, okay, if people are coming here to see theater, if we're going to train audience members to break their brain a little bit, you're not going downtown. It's not a formal theater. It's, you know, you have to start breaking audience members away from that. Like you're coming to a found space, former Family Dollar. From the second they walk in the door, how could I change their mind? And so we wanted to make it immersive, and we wanted to, kind of similarly to what the revival just did of Cabaret, to create the Kit Kat Club in our studio space. So that show very quickly came top of mind for that. And we really pushed to have all the tech ready, to have like the tape. I mean, like just to really make sure we're gonna do a live band. We're gonna see if we can have, from a sound design perspective, can we do a 4-piece band in there with a cast of 20 doing a production not in a proscenium setting, so in a kind of different configuration that's going to blow people's minds? And I was like, hey team, here's our task. And it was incredible. It was incredible. The way people, I don't know, I can't describe it. And it was so successful that we brought the show back in August for a weekend that also sold out. We sold out the initial run of Cabaret. It was a 2-weekend run, 8 performances. We sold out the initial run before we even started doing tech rehearsals, which I've never experienced, of like, hey, the show starts next week, we're sold out already. Because I've just been like, we build it and they come. We build it, they will come. I'm just like, we're going to do it. And so that, like, it was so overwhelming to see people just like get it, of like, oh, this is what Theatre Tulsa is doing now. Oh, wow. And you guys are also going to do the stuff at the piece. Oh, man. Like, you know what I mean? I think people just saw what we were doing with that show, and it felt like it shifted things a little bit. It felt like it kind of, and I mean, I told this to the cast, mainly to like beef them up and boost them up, even though they really didn't need it, because they were like, we sold out before we even opened, you know. But like, I think
Back to that ego thing.
right. You have to stroke it a little bit, but not too much. But I think our production of Cabaret changed the landscape of theater in Tulsa just a little bit, because what I was able to see done in that space, the way I was able to, you know, see how audiences responded to that show, it was like all the light bulbs started going off, and I'm like, we're doing the right thing. Like, we're like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And then imagine if we can open that up to the other theater companies in town, to American Theater Company and World Stage and Theater North and Pembroke Players. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, this can be a community arts facility. Like, this can be a space that is just brimming with exciting arts, theater. Like, it just opened up so much for us. And so whenever we were choosing which show to do, I was like, we gotta, like, we're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And we can do that with Cabaret, which was a hot title at the time. And we were going to do it in a really cool way. And yeah, I'm so proud of what that show did in Tulsa, and just having a completely sold out run and then another sold out run. And then people still just like, I'm going to be thinking about the experience as a whole, not just the show, but like the experience they had coming in here, like, for years.
Now, you guys kind of took the immersive part to the extreme.
Yeah.
You were offering burlesque shows at pre-show. You also had an art exhibit out front.
Yeah. We like immediately, and it was another great thing about Cabaret, of just like the potential and the opportunity that we had for it. I am glad you mentioned that, because I already forgot about it, because I have moved on to like, you know,
3 other shows,
at least 3. But yeah, we partnered with the Sherwin-Miller Museum of Jewish Art here in Tulsa, which is the largest collection of Judaic art in, I believe, the Southwest. And it's right here in Tulsa. The curator of that museum actually reached out to us within 5 minutes of us announcing that we were doing Cabaret, and said, we got to partner on this somehow. So yeah, like in the lobby, we had a whole section blocked off that was a curated exhibit of just life in the Weimar era, and a lot of the history that was erased and just destroyed over time, that we really wanted to highlight, and was relevant and important to understanding our production of Cabaret, of like, to really like find the humanity and understand what was lost and the information that was lost. And so we had a really fantastic exhibit as a nice educational piece. And so many people were like, thank you for doing it. Like, not only was that like nice to have, that was necessary to have that exhibit out there to either see before you go into the Kit Kat Club, so to speak, or like you see Act 1 and then you immediately run out and you're like, I gotta go to that exhibit, because I'm sure there's, you know, and so we had that partnership, which was really, really fantastic. We offered for the evening performances, we had burlesque pre-show for an additional ticket, and that sold really well, because again, we wanted people to come here. And I mean, the 1920s, early 1930s was very vaudevillian. I mean, you had clown acts, you had burlesque acts, you had animal, it was just this kind of birth of the variety show. And so I was like, we're going to sell additional tickets for a burlesque pre-show. And so, yeah, I do appreciate you bringing that up. So yeah, we just had all these elements of it that was just like the stars aligned and we had lightning in a bottle. And I'm like, I want to make that with every show, no matter if it's here at the PAC. It's like, what kind of community partnerships can we do for these shows? What other things can we do to engage the community? That's going to, again, another full circle, like instill that love of theater. Like, I'm so excited about whenever we're doing Frozen, because like, do you know how many little girls want to meet Anna and Elsa? Like, even still, that movie actually came out like over 10 years ago. But there's just something about Anna and Elsa. And so it's like, we've already got some opportunities and partnerships. I have one with the Filbert Museum, because they're going to be showing Frozen the movie and they asked for Anna and Elsa. So it's like we're finding all of these opportunities to connect with the community and connect with other organizations in a way that you have to be intentional about, but also you really do have to be intentional, because it's like when we're picking these shows, we're also now thinking in those terms. We're not just doing Rent. No, it's like what organizations that, are like, we have Tulsa Cares and Diversity Help, like, or organizations, who their main focus is AIDS prevention, AIDS awareness. And it's like, we're doing Rent. That's a big part of Rent.
Yeah.
It would be a disservice to the community if we didn't partner with at least an organization to do something.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of those conversations, or that conversations that happened when we were selecting the shows for our 103rd season, it was like, yeah, is Rent going to sell tickets? Absolutely. That's why I'm doing it, because people want to be in it. People want to see it. It has this nostalgia for a lot of people who love that musical, but also we can tell a really impactful story and do some community partnerships that make that not just a piece of theater that audiences are seeing, but make that something so relevant for our community.
Nice. Okay, so over the top,
Mm-hmm.
vaudeville, burlesque, musical, to the Crucible.
Yeah.
How did you shift that gear?
Yeah. So we typically have only done 1 or 2 plays a year. And by plays, I mean a non-musical, straight play, no singing. And I knew I wanted to bring in a few more, because I think obviously that's an important, thing for a theater company to have. We also don't want to step on anybody else's toes. What's really good in Tulsa is that every theater company has their lane, like hard lane.
Sure.
And we don't want to dip too far into somebody else's lane. So one thing I noticed was no one's really doing classics. There's a lot of like cooler, edgier, newer shows happening. There are new, interesting, fresh takes on like very old piece, like Oedipus, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we have some companies that are doing some really cool things but there's no one really doing like classic, not even necessarily American, but for me, like classic American plays, like the Arthur Millers, the Tennessee Williams, So I thought, okay, we have a slot in August. We have an opening. What can I fill that with? Well, I don't want it to be a musical because we're doing Cabaret in June. We've got Hairspray at the PAC in September, and my staff would kill me if I threw. And now we're going to do the Sound of Music. You know what I mean? Like, they're not, So I was like,
somebody's going to die.
Right. It has to be attainable, and it has to be a non-musical, and it has to be done in our studio space because that's what we have the access to. And I thought, okay, well, no one's really doing like Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller. So what's a good? And then I just thought of the Crucible because I've seen that show before, and I mean everybody's read it in high school or knows about it in some form. So there is some relevance there to it of like a lot of high schools that's on the curriculum. So that could be a nice draw. It's in August around when school's starting. There could be something there. And then I was like, what if we could do something in the round? Okay, what if we did Crucible in the round in August? And like it just started, like, you start thinking of not the craziest thing you could think of, but what's something that would be interesting to get people to come here, especially after seeing Cabaret, which the additional weekend of Cabaret happened August 8th. The next 2 weekends were Crucible. So we turned this building from the Kit Kat Club, the sexy, seedy Kit Kat Club. And then in 3 days, it was a Puritan hellscape. That's all I can say. Like a rustic, dirty, like it's like the hay that you're actually sitting next to right now because we're still here. The props are still here. And people came to that who had come to Cabaret, and it was like, this is the same place. This is the same company. It just, because it was an entirely new and different pool of actors. Most of the people in the Crucible had never been in a Theatre Tulsa production, and I had never seen them on stage. And so not only did we diversify our programming by doing, a classic American play in the round in our studio as part of a company that doesn't really do that, we got an entirely new demographic of people. We got new audience members coming in. Like for every one person on stage, you're like, okay, that's about 8 to 10 tickets that I can sell per person. If it's a kid, you can get about 15 people or more, because mom and dad are going to come a few times, And so, we sold out the majority of the final weekend of the Crucible. We sold out the last 3 shows. People were clamoring to see Arthur Miller's The Crucible. That doesn't happen whenever people are like, it's not very sexy. It's not, but it was intentional. We did it for a number of reasons, and again, it paid off.
And I think there was a curiosity factor too.
Oh, absolutely.
After seeing Cabaret, there's people like, okay, what are they going to do with that?
Right.
And I saw all the promotional and photos and the shots from the show and everything. It was amazing look.
Thank you.
The set was, I loved the cross stage. That was really, really cool. So there's a lot, and again, doing it in the round, anything that you can do in the round, I think is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think not only as an audience member does it, of course, obviously put you, closer to the action and like whatever, and you're in the story. But as an actor on stage, you learn so much by doing something in the round or even in the thrust. When you have audience members kind of all around you, that's a whole different,
changes the intimacy factor.
That's a whole different layer of acting that you have to do, and they're so close to you, and so and again, even though it is an Arthur Miller play, 1950s, it could be very, stale and slow and boring and not exciting and whatever, right? Like everybody has seen a 4-hour production where these, and it was like, what if we made it really cool in the studio? Because we're able to, and that's a kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Whenever I say like taking risks and doing cool things, it doesn't necessarily mean like choosing crazy shows to do. It could mean just doing a show in a really cool way that nobody ever thought about.
Do it a different way.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love the mindset behind it. So now you're shifting and you've got a current production. So we're going from like this gear to this gear.
I know.
And so now we're going to another fan favorite. And you guys are currently in production for Hairspray. And this is back at the PAC.
Yes, we are back at the Williams Theater at the PAC. And whenever you lay it out like that, Tim, it is whiplash.
It's like a car wreck going on over here. So how many people have died this year?
Exactly. But yeah, and also a lot of that, like from a tech perspective, because our technical director, our staff consists of me, our company manager, and our technical director. Crucible in the round, a couple bales of hay, and some chairs. Not a very set heavy show. So our technical director will have time to build a show like Hairspray. Kind of the same thinking. I know I'm getting ahead of you, but kind of the same thinking whenever we chose Rent, followed by Frozen. Yes, Rent is at the PAC. It's in one of the smaller theaters at the PAC. It's Rent. You don't need things flying in and out. You need like some scaffolding, some stairs, kind of cool. Like, it's not super intense from a set perspective. It could be if you wanted to make it that. Sure. It doesn't have to be though. While our team is building Frozen. which is a big show. Right. So it does seem like whiplash, but you also have those audience members who will only see our shows at the PAC, who are only interested in those large scale musicals.
Sure.
So their view of Theatre Tulsa is Hairspray, Rent, Frozen, Gypsy. You have people that will only see shows here because they want that scrappy. They don't like, if people start singing, they immediately get turned off. They'll see things like The Crucible here, and all they see from Theatre Tulsa is the stuff in our studio. And so kind of like, so that's kind of like their view. So for us as a company, it's like we want all these offerings. So it does kind of feel like a real left turn, but as an audience member, I think it makes sense. And then there's people that just want to see everything, and they're like, I get to see something completely different every month. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting exposed to all types of theater.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, we're currently in rehearsals for Hairspray. That opens September 12th. And yeah, it was like, well, one, I've been wanting to see Theatre Tulsa do Hairspray for years. The issue was the rights were never available because there was a tour, or it was like Hairspray Live on TV and whatever. When we were picking the season, I saw the rights were available. I grabbed them. Because I think after maybe Cabaret, Crucible, something light, fun would be great. It also is not just light and fun. There is some depth in Hairspray, and there are a lot of roles for people of color, which is something that we're always like trying to be aware of, that we're not whitewashing a season. And so it was another show that I was like, people are going to want to be in it. People are going to want to see it. It's a good show to put in that slot at the Performing Arts Center right after Crucible, where we will have time to build and work toward Hairspray. And I think it's just going to be a fun fan favorite show at the PAC.
So how did you approach the casting of Hairspray? You talked a little bit about having it open for, diversity and things like that. How did you approach that?
Yeah, well, I'm not directly working on that production. I'm actually fortunate that for the first time in like 2 years, I'm like not directing or choreographing anything until the spring, which is great.
Okay.
But no, with shows like that, I mean, you announce the auditions, and you put them on social media, and you put them where they need to go, and you just kind of
hope.
You cross your fingers and you say, man, I need a motor mouth Maybell who can,
Yeah.
And luckily, for the most part, I mean, we were able to get Colby Jordan, who is from Tulsa, has been in some of our shows before, but recently was top 10 on American Idol. She sang with Patti LaBelle on stage. Yeah. And she reached out to our company manager and was like, hey, I want to be in Hairspray when I come back to Tulsa. And we were like, you know who you're talking to. And she was like, yeah, I just like, and so I don't know, things like that happen, and you always luck out. I feel sometimes though, you do have to do a little bit more work to get the people that you need. And that involves a decent amount of outreach. I think in Tulsa, the way a lot of our companies work together, is we kind of start with other companies. Like, I know there's got to be somebody at Theater North or World Stage Theater Company that either has somebody or knows somebody or something to fill this role that we need. Or, oh, I know the folks at Pembroke do these types of shows all the time. So hey, do you have somebody who, so a lot of our outreach and casting is working with the other theater companies. But we got a really fantastic cast for Hairspray, and it's a pretty big cast. It's close to 40, might be a little more than 40, I think. But again, that was kind of the thinking. It was like smaller musical for Cabaret, and we're just going to explode with Aquanet.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that you do that, because that in and of itself kind of accentuates the community theater.
Yeah.
If we're able to work together, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I built this podcast to reach out, to show that our community's a lot bigger than what we think.
Yeah.
So many people are literally, shoehorned or boxed into their community. They don't think outside of that.
Yeah.
And one of the directors that I interviewed previously said what they're starting to see over the last couple of years, and probably even more so this year, is somebody called it theater sharing. People, and we're seeing it, people coming from small towns into the big cities to do theater, but we're also seeing some of those actors from Tulsa and Oklahoma City going to Stillwater and Enid and to do theater there as well.
Right.
And I think that's such a cool thing, that we're looking outside of our own little corner and we're sharing the love of theater with everybody.
Right.
And I think COVID had a lot to do with that. It kind of opened our horizons to what's going on, and that we need to be outside of our shells a little more. And I think that's great that you guys are really embracing that. So we talked a little bit about some of the shows that you've got going on. So what does your season look like? When does your season start and end?
So technically, basically starts July to June is basically our fiscal year, and also our season, if you will.
Okay, so this year your season opened with Cabaret, then Crucible, now Hairspray. We talked a little bit about Rent and Frozen. What does the rest of the season that you've got going on look like?
So the rest of the season after Frozen is going to be really experimental.
I was gonna say, if you say top secret, I'm gonna think
top. No, it can't be top secret. I need people to buy tickets.
So there you go.
So I, again, looking at our studio, going, what can we program in there? How can we have the biggest impact with some shows at a low production value, or not low production value, low production cost, I should say. So after Frozen in January, which obviously will be big, splashy, family friendly, like just, Frozen. In February, we're doing a production of Love Letters, which is another non-musical. Love Letters, for people that might not know, every community theater in America has done love letters, because it is two people who sit there and read love letters, and you don't really need a set or costumes or fancy lighting. The actors don't even really need to learn their lines, because they're reading their love letters over time. It's also an incredibly sweet story. It's basically The Notebook, but without like the flashbacks. That's kind of how I would describe love. It's like two older people who have had this love story, and it kind of plays out through letters.
Sure.
But what if we did it with a different couple, like every night? And then what if I gave people discounts? Like, if you want to see multiple couples in this love story, you can get a discount to come and see the show multiple times or whatnot. So that's what we're doing. I'm kind of using the tagline, Love Letters, forecasts one love story. I want to see what, I don't know, a biracial older couple, how the story moves through them. I want to see, like, I can see that show being, again, like what we did with Crucible. We weren't just doing Arthur Miller's The Crucible. We had something to say with it, and we wanted to kind of test the boundaries and the limits of that story. So I want to do the same thing with Love Letters. So we're going to be casting 4 pairs of couples who over 2 weekends will do the show here in our studio space. And then a month after that, I should say our goal also, again, to maximize the community impact, once that show closes, because it is very easy to pack that show up. That strike is going to be, 10 minutes.
Put the costumes away.
Put the costumes away and put the tables over there. We're hoping to take that production to retirement facilities and senior homes and activity centers to perform that show outside, like really outside of a traditional theater setting, but to folks in our community who don't get a lot of access to theater, and for a story that I think would be very important and touching to them. So it's a 2-weekend run. I'm hoping the weeks following that, we are going to get some things on the books to take our show on the road, to again, provide more access to the arts and have a bigger impact with what is generally and historically a 2-person play. We now have quadrupled the impact of the number of actors that are going to be doing it, which, I mean, let's be real, not a lot of good roles for people in their 70s these days. You know what I'm saying? Or ever, you know? So we like quadrupling the number of people we're able to put in the show and just multiplying the impact by taking that show on the road and going and meeting people where they are in retirement homes and senior centers, to perform that show. And then kind of similarly, a month, few weeks after that, I'm like, oh man, the calendar is really tight these days. We're going to be doing a production of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown here in our studio space, where again, I was like, man, wouldn't it be a fun little multi-generational experiment too? Because again, Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, not very complicated set, not very complicated costumes, pretty small cast. What if we had 3 casts? We had a cast of kids from our Theatre Tulsa Academy program. We had a cast of adults, and we had a cast of senior citizens. And each one had a weekend or had a number of performances. So we're doing a multi-generational theater experiment of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, where you can come one night and see kids do it, one night to see adults do it, and then one night to see seniors do it. That's a show I will be directing. How am I going to direct that? I have no idea, but I'll figure that out, much like we've figured everything else out kind of as we've done it. So I'm interested to kind of see that project. And it's really like with shows like that, I don't really even think of them as like a show. I think of it as like an initiative, like a project that we want to do and that people are getting excited about. And it again makes it feel bigger than just theater. It makes it feel bigger than I'm just in a show. Like, no, I'm in this really cool show where like there's like, and then I'm like, you know, it just, I don't know, it makes people feel like you're a part of something special. And as an audience member, it makes you feel like you're seeing something really special.
Yeah.
And then fingers crossed that turns into funding, but that's a separate conversation. You know what I mean?
We hope that with every show. Right?
Exactly. And so, yeah, so we've got those 2 kind of fun shows lined up. And then after that, man, you're really putting me, I'm like, I have to remember my own season. That's crazy. And then after that, we have some collaboration series shows in the works with some members of the community. One production of Lizzie, the musical, is going to run for 1 or 2 weekends here that we're co-producing. And again, that's going to get a whole different audience and demographic here in this building seeing theater, which I'm super excited about. We then are going to be at the PAC again in April, May, to finish out our Broadway series with Gypsy, which was a title I was surprised to get. I was very surprised that we got the shows that we got. Cabaret was currently on Broadway. Shocked that we got it. Hairspray has never been available whenever we've tried. Shockingly, this season, it was. Frozen kind of fell into our lap because we get information on like early release for things, and because of the shows that we do and the skill that we do them, we get selected to make regional premieres of things. We made the regional premiere of Waitress last fall. And so And then Gypsy, which I was like, there's no way. It's on Broadway. Audra McDonald. Like, there's no way. And it was available and we got it. And I said, okay, I guess we're doing Gypsy too. Like, man, we're just going to go all out this season. And so we back at the Williams Theater at the PAC for Gypsy, which I'll also be directing. Really excited about that. And then obviously throughout all of those things, we have our Theatre Tulsa Academy, which is year-round programming for ages 5 to 18. We've kind of got them like broken up. We have Broadway Beginners, Broadway Boot Camp, Broadway Bound. And so we have those programs and those productions happening throughout the year. We just had summer camps of our 5 to 12-year-olds did Annie Jr., and then our teens did Heather's School Edition. We've got Seussical Jr. coming up in the spring. I think we load out Gypsy the same day we're loading in Seussical Jr. So again, it's going to be a weird, like you're going to see like the Jungle of Newell coming in as like the stripper Gypsy. So you know what I mean? Like but I mean, we're just like, we have a variety of offerings here at Theatre Tulsa. And so we have our youth programs kind of sprinkled in there throughout the year. In the fall, I love this program that we came up with last year called Musical Laboratory, which is, again, a no-cost thing. There's no rights involved. There's no like real overhead for it, really, where kids, like, we create our own musical. We take a classic story like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Three Little Pigs, or something like that. And we collaborate and write our own like 30, 45-minute mini musical. And they're a part of the songwriting, the scenes. They can give their opinions on the lights and costumes, but I'm like, you guys, it just kind of is what it is, you know? And so that's a really cool program that we started last year. And the parents were blown up because I was fully just, again, throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticked. I needed something for the kids to do. We didn't have a lot of money to spend. We can't do Seussical or Annie or whatever. Let's write our own thing. And we'll see it. And it was incredible. The parents were like, how did you guys do that? You know? So we have fun programs like that throughout the year for ages, 5 to 18 in different forms, kind of sprinkled throughout the year. And yeah, so I mean, I don't think I missed anything in our season. I might have, but I mean, that's the highlights.
And you sleep when?
Whenever I can. But it's great because for a while I was throwing myself on pretty much every production team just to save money where I could. I was directing and choreographing. So now we're at the point where I can not be in the rehearsal room for all 5 productions that were happening at the same time. Because I mean, I was bouncing back and forth. I would choreograph this show for about 30 minutes, and then I'd jump over here into this room because I'm directing that. But then I have the kids coming in to do, like, it was one of those kind of things. I mean, it was scrappy community theater programming. And that's when I really wasn't sleeping. Now I can, though, because now I'm like, I think we've got it figured out for this season. But again, even the stuff that we're doing this season is pretty, I don't know, experimental, and trying to see, what season 104 could look like and seasons beyond that. But it's for us, it's just been about meeting the moment where it is. What are we able to do? What do people want us to do? And how can we just get people excited about theater and make it impactful and cool?
That's cool. So if somebody wants to get involved with Theatre Tulsa, how do they do that?
They can go to theatretulsa.org. That's theater with an R-E, because we're kind of booter, you know what I'm saying? It's theatretulsa.org is where everything lives. Audition information. You can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter. You can sign up to receive audition notices. You can sign up to be added to our volunteer list if you want to help with sets or costumes or props or anything like that. We're also on social media, Theatre Tulsa on Instagram, Theatre Tulsa on Facebook. And that's, I think, really where we get the most engagement. I've really been working to like I said, make theater look cool and relevant and interesting and pique people's interest. And a lot of that has come through social media and just things that we're able to do. And so we love when people engage with the content that we have. And there's no shortage of it, because with this many shows, you can imagine what the
Every time you log in, you're seeing a different show.
every time the social media content calendar is like crazy. It's color coded. It's yeah. So if people want to learn more about us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, but our website, theatretulsa.org, is pretty much the home base for all things Theatre Tulsa.
They want to get tickets for Hairspray. How do they do that?
Yeah. Again, our website is a good hub for it. Those tickets for the shows that we do at the PAC are through the PAC's websites. So it is Ticketmaster and all that. But we have that on our homepage on the website. So any tickets that you want, any auditions that you want to sign up for, everything pretty much can be found on our website.
Okay, before we wrap this up, everybody that listens to the show would be mad if I didn't wrap up with this. We try to end every episode with some off-the-wall curveball questions.
Ooh.
We call it our curtain call.
Okay, I love that.
So we're going to grab a couple of these and just go with it. If Theatre Tulsa were a cocktail, what would it be?
Oh, okay. If Theatre Tulsa were a cocktail, it would be, I'm leaning toward some take on an old fashioned, mainly because that's what I drink. So of course that's what it would be, but it would be like an old fashioned that has something in it or some garnish that isn't normally with an old fashioned or something, because I think with the rich history that Theatre Tulsa has, it's got to be a classic cocktail. But I think
with a sparkler,
there's something in there that you're like, what is that?
Sure.
It's new. That's fresh. That's exciting. But it's still a classic cocktail.
Absolutely.
That's a really great question, Tim.
Thank you.
I'm keeping that.
Hold on to that one. Yeah. Make it like one of your mainstays there.
Yes, I love that.
So, okay, if Theatre Tulsa had a mascot, what would the mascot be?
Oh, wow. Oh, that was...
See, I saved these till the end because after you've been thinking this whole time, now you can't think of anything.
If Theatre Tulsa had a mascot, you know, I'm gonna stick with like classic mascots. I'm not gonna like make up a unicorn thing. And I'm gonna be really sappy and sentimental and say I think it would be an eagle, because right now I think our wings are spreading and we're soaring into a new era of Theatre Tulsa that's really exciting. So I think it would be an eagle drinking an old fashioned.
That's fair. Okay, I like it. Okay, last one. What is your go-to karaoke song?
My go-to karaoke song is Back to Black by Amy Winehouse.
There you go.
That, or if I'm feeling real bold, I'll do a little bit of Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Frankie Valli. If I'm really feeling like a tenor that day.
After a few old fashions.
After a few old fashions. Exactly.
All right. Well, Travis, thank you for your time. Thank you for being a part of this. This has been a lot of information. You filled up our calendars completely for the next year. So I think we're good to go. We appreciate you being here, being part of this. Thank you. For everybody else listening at home, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time, for being a part of the Oklahoma On Stage community. And no matter what, continue to support the arts.
Oklahoma On Stage.